Today we're going to look at how to set up a home section in Glamorous Toolkit, how to customize that for your repos. So let's get started with that. In this set of videos, I'm assuming that you are not a GT beginner, that you've watched a lot of hours of GT videos, that you've already downloaded and played with the environment quite a bit. You've solved some of your own problems. What I want to do is start taking beginners to intermediates, how to self-serve what's in the book. And part of that is knowing what's in the book. So doing some guided exploration of that. And then also I found Smalltalk to be to retain a lot of its apprentice-based roots. So people working in teams with experts who know what they're doing, and you can watch how they do things, and that's just hard to pick up. It takes a lot of time. So I'll go through some of the preliminary stuff that I do. Not that I'm a super expert, but I feel like I'm the last year or so, at least intermediate with GT, but it took a couple of years to get there after working with GT off and on. So let's start by firing up GT. But actually, before we do that, every once in a while you'll hear about people on videos, Oscar, talking about startup scripts, and there's a discussion on the Discord about startup scripts, but this is a core Pharaoh capability, so a lot of times the GT people don't talk about it much because they kind of assume everybody, well, no, they don't assume everybody knows a lot about Pharaoh, but they do overlook some of the things that are super integrated and well documented in Pharaoh. So if you haven't seen exactly what the startup script is, I'm on Windows. My daily driver's a Mac, so this is kind of a new experience for me, resurrecting a Windows box that I can work on. But we're looking at app data. Pharaoh 11.0 is where my startup script's going to be, and let's see what's in it. I always start with changing the zoom factor a little bit for my high-res monitor. Was super proud, I don't know, a couple of years ago when I found on Windows that I could slow down the scroll speed. I have no idea whether that's even needed anymore, but it's in my Windows startup. Straight from the book is how to set up SSH credentials that you've already set up with your GitHub repo and point to those in Windows, and then also loading a repo. So that's what's going to run when we first fire this up. So let's do that. Pops up out of my frame. All right, you saw it right there to jump up the resolution. And then you see every once in a while this light goes green and yellow as it's reloading Leopard databases. So there was the Leopard database for the call that was in my startup script. So we're here. Let's open the book. Actually, we can just search in the book right here. Let's set up a home section. All right, and the first thing we want to do is let's make a repo, which I already did. So I just created a repo called home demo that's private, so we can make sure our SSH keys are working, and then that's exactly where we are. So we haven't done anything with that yet. So let's copy that. I don't need that anymore. All right, in GT, I'll make that over. Let's go to Git, add a clone a remote repository, paste in that. All right, I think the most recent videos as of early 2025 of loading Git You actually do a lot of this stuff. It shows how to do this stuff manually, but now in the Git tool, we can just hit a button that says create a source directory and name it source. Create baseline directory and create a Leopard database. So you can customize all those if you want to, but those are the changes that it's going to make to the repo. Let's commit that. Yeah. GT. Let's push that. All right, we can double check here, refresh. It's all been pushed. It made a README for us. All right, we don't need that anymore. So my motivation in kind of learning to do cards is this exact part right here. I've created a new Leopard database, and now I want to start using it to document my the thing that I'm working on. So I have to go to knowledge bases, scroll down the bottom, and here's going to be an empty database for my new home demo repo. So add a page. So here's what I did to get started. I used to name TOCs just TOC, but then when you look at a bunch of them together, there's no differentiation. So let's name it home demo TOC. And then the way you make something to TOC, which is in the book, is change to the inspector view, click the TOC button. Now that's magically a TOC. And then let's add some things to this TOC. In most repos, setting up the card is not part of what I'm really documenting in the Leopard database. So I put it in a section called admin. And then indent that with a control right bracket, control right bracket. And let's call that home card. What's that? Click away, click into each of those so they're now active. All right, now this is setting up a home card for our new repo, and we don't need that anymore. We're gonna just look at this stuff and do what it says. So let's say where we're getting this from. So let's copy that link. C. All right. And it says we're going to use the GT multi-home card class, section class. Okay. So we can explore that from here, and we'll dig into that more later. So we want to create a subclass of that. So what I do to make that super easy, copy that. Let's make a Pharaoh section. And I want mine to be named demo. Let's just do section. Home demo section. All right, that doesn't exist, but we want to create it with two things. One is that it needs to be a subclass of that. The other is I want it to be in my home demo package. So let's put that on the clipboard, create, let's paste this in. Yep. Package is home demo. Is that what it's called? There it is. And I've been putting it in just in a tag called card or home or something. All right. So this is my new card. I have found that actually instead of, we're going to use this frame for something else. So I actually do use Coder for this. All right. So I found in addition to the required so the section I want to copy, the thing I want to copy is this oh, sorry, let's see, let's do, yeah. All right, so this is the one. So this is also subclasses GT multi-home card section. This get started section. That is this. That is that. And we can see how we know that because we have this GT used knowledge base card. It's got a GT section card pragma. What about some of these others? If you remember, there used to be an about this book card. And it's commented out. So that's why it doesn't show up anymore. So there's a super easy one to get started with if you don't need anything fancy. But like I said, I really want to steal this for my knowledge base. So let's get started with that. Before we make our own method, let's grab this, talk about it for a second. Paste that in. So if I execute that, I'll get the card that they've used there, which is my default database, which is not what I want. I want my Leopard database. Now, inside this, I could use something like this. Inside this particular knowledge base, I can, from the book, say that the database that I'm in is this snippet, database. Right, and that's just a string to tell me where I am. But when I execute this from the home section, I guess I could do something to say, okay, the knowledge base that's actually associated with this, with the same repo where you're going to find this class was, that's too much for me to think about now. It's super easy to just say, well, let's just do this. And let's see what we want to do. DB name equals. And we can do Command P to print and just copy straight from here. This is easier actually than going through the inspector to do all that. So, and then you'll see the reason this card does our regular knowledge, the default database is because of this call right here. But if you poke around this GT home card, you'll also see that there's just database name. So now this should be, instead of my default, it should be the database we're in now. We've got to it a little bit of a different route. Let's see. Did not understand database. It's not called database. It is called database name, which we can go and look. Let's just double check that. So I'm gonna Command B to browse that, and then it's not there. I'm not sure where I found that from. What do we get when we do this? GT Home Leopard base card. Okay, there it is. Yeah, so there's a subclass of GT Home card, which is a GT basic letter base card, which knows how to find a database. So there's a few things in here we could use. I jumped on this database name to find that, and that worked great for me. So that's what I end up using here. And then we execute that. We get a card that's of this thing we're looking at, which is what I want. I want this to show up on the home page. So we've got this. We've got our section, and this thing said, all right, so let's use this. We want our own knowledge base card. We can put this in here. Knowledge base card. And then we want the content of that to be what we just put here. So we can copy that. Paste it. And let's indent that. And we want to return this card. And since the context for everything is already here, oh, let's see, we need a temporary variable. Since the context is already here, we can actually execute this, which also saves it. And yeah, all right, so we're getting that. It is now got pragmas that are going to make it show up someplace. A couple other things I found also useful that aren't mentioned here are, in addition to the card that you're doing, default priority is useful. So you can choose where this shows up. Oops. I don't want to make it that thing. And let's just make it 10 instead of 30. And having a section title is good. Let's see, this one's called Start, which is where this comes from. So let's make our own start, and we want to name it all right, so now we've got three methods in here. Let's keep reading in the book to see how to make these show up. So to install, this is a home card section, but you must implement an extension method of GT Home. For example, this gets started. So let's look at that. So here's this get started section. It's got a GT Home section pragma. That's what makes it show up as a section. And then it's going to create one of these, which is what we, let's do Command B on that. Yeah, that's the one we're just looking at, right? So this makes the section show up, and then having an uncommented section card is what makes each card show up. So let's make one of those to get to what we want to do. So let's copy this, create one of those. We don't want to, we need to name it something of ours. So let's call it Home Demo Section. And we want to point it to our Home Demo Section card. And then, super duper important, we actually want to make this an extension method. So this needs to be our package, which we call what? Home demo. Yeah, home demo. Enter. So that's there. Every once in a while, for me, these don't take. I don't know if I'm not hitting enter or what, but let's double check. Okay, that is showing as an extension. And then we can also look at the categories. Yeah, and we see our extension, and then we'll double check and get later to make sure that this is showing up correctly. So, so now that's an extension. It's here with the right pragmas. Theoretically, it should just show up. And it does. So there's our knowledge base. So as we add pages to it, they're going to be right here. Super easy to find. If we put this repo in our startup then we will just have that available. Or a lot of times, if I don't want to put it in my startup, I just add a page in my knowledge base and name it, load whatever for my repo, and then it's down here. So I can easily find it here. And of course, I don't have this local one on this Windows set up for doing much. It looks like I've done a couple of things. And then not a lot since 2022, 2023 on this machine. One other thing, just in case you do need to mess with this, like say we wanted to change the priority so that this card showed up at the bottom. Let's see, where did we put that? We put that as default priority. Sometimes that doesn't actually propagate, especially with doing development. It doesn't propagate as fast as I would want it to. So a lot of times in this little setup page, I'll also put a reminder here that the way I handle that, or you can say GT world request, which looks like that's a specific method for this purpose. All instances of home update with the newest information from the classes. So if we go back here, and now we're at the bottom because we changed our priority. So the priority in here is the priority of the sections. And then if you have multiple cards, where's our, it is going to be in here, right? So this card has a priority of 1, and so multiple cards. So we should be able to test that idea by looking. GT Home has 2 live cards. One was for the book. Yep, that's live. And its priority is 10. And one was for the knowledge base. It's live, and its priority is 1. So that's why they show up in the order that they do here. So yeah, that's what I start. That's what, let's see. Let's now get that back so we can see. Yep, GT Home is now here. If the extension part had not shown up correctly, you won't see that you're overriding GT Home here. It won't show up in your repo because you've changed what's on in the image. So you want to make sure that if you're overriding or providing an extension to a given class, that that shows up in your repo. So now that extension is going to live with my repo. So that's why you want to use that more than convention, that method in Pharo of naming the extension star and the name of your package in order to make it an extension method. All right, so now we got all that. And we can say add a home card. This is how I start all of my new projects now. Repo, home card. Start writing 11. Thanks.